Welcome to the Kick the Habit Forever podcast. My name is Michael Quirk. I'm a licensed therapist, coach, and educator. I've spent the last 25 years working with high-performing men, helping them to break free of the addictions, compulsion, bad habits, painful symptoms, and skills deficits that hold them back. If you're a high-performing man and your goal is to get control over your porn use, then this podcast is for you. Hi, everybody, and welcome. Today, I want to talk with you about a topic that's very important if you're a person who's dealing with compulsions, addictions, or bad habits that you're intent on changing. Are you a person who knows when your boundaries are being overstepped, when somebody's violating them? You may not, and there's some good reasons for that. That's because for many of us, our boundaries, the lines between ourselves and other people, are on autopilot. They're interpersonal habits that were formed very early on in life. And if you haven't done any self-help work or self-development work or had quality therapy, then you may not know when your boundaries are being overstepped. So today I want to share with you some signs of ignored boundaries. You can tell boundaries are being ignored if you're experiencing one or more of the following challenges. Over-enmeshment. This requires everyone to follow the rule that every single person must do everything together, and that all of you are to think, feel, and act in the same way. Nobody's allowed to deviate from the family, the group, or the collective norms. This means that uniqueness, autonomy, and idiosyncratic or unusual behaviors are viewed as bad, as deviations from the norm, and as unacceptable. Another sign is dissociation. Now, that's a big word for disconnecting or ignoring. A simple way to put it is ignoring. It's a kind of blanking out, and it particularly happens during stressful emotional events. So you feel your physical and or emotional space being violated, and perhaps you tell yourself something like, oh, it doesn't matter. Just ignore it. It's not important. It'll go away. It'll pass soon enough. And it's kind of blanking out that results in being out of touch with your feelings about what actually happened. It also might result in your inability to even remember what happened because you develop the habit of just not paying attention, dismissing things out of hand and acting as if they don't matter. If your boundaries have been overstepped, you might find yourself feeling excessively detached. And this occurs when neither you nor anyone else in your group or your family or in your personal relationship is able to establish any kind of fusion of emotions or any affiliation of your feelings. Then it turns out that everyone is totally independent from everyone else. And there doesn't seem to be anything to hold you and them together in a healthy union. Another sign might be a sense of chronic victimhood or martyrdom that you feel. With this, you identify yourself as a violated victim, as somebody with no power, no control, and you become overly defensive in order to ward off further violation. It can also be that once you accept your victimization, you continue to knowingly allow yourself to be victimized and then let others know about your chronic martyrdom. Sometimes what happens is people develop a chip on their shoulder. And this is reflected in your interactions with others because of your anger over past violations that you've had and over your emotional history and difficulties that you've had maintaining your own personal physical space. Or it could be that that you perceived other people ignored your rights. So then you end up having a chip on your shoulder. And it's kind of like you're sitting there with an attitude that says, I dare you to come too close to me. Now, the converse can happen. You can have a chronic sense of invisibility. And this is something that involves you doing a kind of pulling in or over controlling yourself so that others, and perhaps even yourself, never know how you're really feeling or what you're really thinking. Your goal is not to be seen, it's to hide. Your goal is to avoid being heard so that your boundaries are not violated anymore. You might also find that you are a person who is aloof or excessively shy. This can be a result of your insecurity from real or perceived experiences of being ignored or rejected in your past. It feels like a violation of your efforts to expand and stretch your boundaries to include others in your personal space. Now, once rejected, you take a kind of defensive posture to reject others before they reject you. This keeps you inward and unwilling or fearful of opening up your heart and your personal space to other people. Now, another sign of boundaries that have been trampled on is that you might find yourself being cold and distant. In essence, distance builds a wall or a barrier around you to ensure that other people don't permeate, other people don't invade your emotional space or your physical body. And as you can see, this is a defensive move, and it's due to being previously hurt. It's due to carrying around a lot of pain with you. And it comes from being violated, hurt, ignored, and rejected. This kind of stance is your way of declaring that you've drawn a line over which you are not going to allow anyone to cross. It's a way to keep other people out, to put them off. Now, another sign of boundary difficulties can be smothering. And smothering behavior results when another person is overly solicitous of your needs and your interests. It's kind of cloying interest. It feels overly intrusive into your personal space. And it can actually be so overwhelming that you feel like you're being strangled or suffocated, or I've had clients describe it to me as if they're being held on to too tightly and or that they lack any kind of breathing room, any space to breathe on their own. So again, it's a physical sense of feeling violated, maybe used and overwhelmed. Lack of privacy is an important sign. This is present when it seems to you that nothing that you think, nothing that you feel, and nothing that you do is your own personal business. You're expected to report to other people in your life, like your family, your partner, your group, all the details, all the content of your feelings, every reaction you have, all your opinions, your relationships and your dealings with the outside world. You're expected to report in about them and disclose them. So you begin to feel that nothing that you experience can be kept in the privacy of your own personal domain. You begin to believe that you don't actually have a private domain, that you don't have a right to it. You don't have a right to your own space into which you can escape. So these are 10 signs that I've observed in men and women that I've worked with over the years that are all pretty good indicators of boundary issues, either boundaries that are too rigid or too permeable, too flexible. And I hope that reflecting on this can help you have boundaries that work better for you, your relationships, and your life as a whole. Thanks for listening today. I'd like to invite you to view my free class. It's called How to Kick the Habit Forever. In it, we talk about what you have to do in order to unhook yourself from compulsively using adult content. Go to www.kickthehabitforever.com now to view it.